Interesting to see. Xander just, he's actually taking notes. We see, not too often, but we do see some players, taking notes to kind of remember what's in their prizes. Xander just making sure he has all the information he can on this first search.
Yeah, still taking his time here. He is also bringing an Apricorn Maker to the front, so that tells me maybe a Tapu Lele could be coming in. Yeah, and he might want to use that to keep setting his board up.
I see 2 Zoroark GX in his hand here.
Oh, wow.
So, honestly, a pretty good opener. Caleb only runs 1 copy of Judge, so he's not going to be able to disrupt Xander too much from that perspective. So, pretty good opener from Xander.
Yeah, and Xander, while he is potentially putting a lot of abilities in play, if he has access to a lot of trades, he might not ever care about Weavile, because when the Sneasel comes into play, if he has access to multiple trades, he should be able to find a copy of Guzma in order to take it out and target it down so that it never becomes an issue.
Yeah, definitely. Also, trades will make sure that he has a healthy amount of cards to find the Lusamine to get Devoured Valleys or Devoured Valleys themselves to kind of bump the shrines. And because Caleb only has 3, like you said, I think Xander has the advantage in the Stadium War.
Yeah, he can certainly make sure he wins it. Even if he is the first one to put a stadium in play, he could still come out on top if he Lusamined for 2 stadiums. So looks like we're just going to see a pass over to from Xander over to Caleb. We'll see what Caleb can do. Can he find Mag Cargo? Can he utilize Instruct? I already see an Ultra Ball and a Mag Cargo in his hand, so he can thin his hand down to nothing and Instruct and draw what he wants.
Yeah, Xander did play 3 Nest Ball that turn, which means that a Trash Lance on this turn would knock out the Shuppet, but I think he wants to save a Trash Lance for a little later in the game. If he can get this Macargo going, he can get a Guzma and use the Guzma to pull up a Zorua and knock it out with Sledgehammer. But we'll see what he does.
Yeah, it's interesting. Caleb's going to go ahead and use Smooth Over. Does Ultra Ball for the Garbodor, so might want to be targeting down a potential knockout. Could have, he could have potentially instructed before putting the Mag Cargo out so that he could see 2 cards, then put Mag Cargo out and guarantee he could draw 1 more. But he wanted to go ahead and just guarantee this energy, I think, and looks like he's going to attach to the Garbodor and Lily. What a good draw there off of the Oranguru. I wonder if he put the Lily on top or the Rainbow Energy.
I'm not really sure, but I like this play from Caleb. He recognizes he can get a prize here. The Banette, if he doesn't have the Sneasel, the Banette is going to be a problem for him. So he just, maybe wants to take out this Shuppet, and he'll worry about, the Zorks and Guzmas and stuff later.
Trash Lance knocks out the first Pokemon. Caleb, the first to draw blood, taking the first prize card. Xander going to go ahead and get a full suite of Zoroark GX in play, most likely. As we said, I believe there's multiple in his hand, at least 2, potentially a third as well hiding in there.
I think he also has a double colorless in his hand and an Ultra Ball. So he potentially has the ability to grab a Guzma and knock out Caleb's Macargo, if that's something he was interested in, or just deal with either of these attackers that Caleb has got going here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the turns to take care of Mag Cargo are going to be when you're not going into a Sledgehammer turn, so it needs to be like the first knockout you take or the the third knockout you take to play around that prize, that big turn of Sledgehammer. Also, of course, as we mentioned, finding weakness policies could be huge.
So Xander trades, I think I see a Banette GX that he got and a Baby Buzz.
Second trade.
He realizes that that Caleb took the first prize, so he's never going to get the ability to use his own Sledgehammer, so kind of just gets rid of that there.
He does need 1 more basic Pokemon plus a Devoured Field if he wants to knock out Garbodor this turn. Has not played a supporter yet, I don't believe.
He has not,
no. Could still try to find a Guzma maybe and target down that Mag Cargo. I think this would probably be a pretty good turn to do it, honestly.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how he wants to maneuver it.
We did see Caleb get a big Lily last turn, so he does have a big hand here, so he could, find another Slugma or something. But Xander just kind of forcing Caleb to do it right away, and if he doesn't, for example, then we might start to see some of that inconsistency of these Buzz Shrine decks creep in. Does Lele for Guzma, and he most likely will take out that Oranguru. The Macargo.
Yeah, it looks like he will most likely be targeting that down. One thing you could consider is, Maybe you could wait to target it down because Caleb does have a pretty large hand. He might not be able to fully utilize it, but as we mentioned, I think probably just targeting it down as early as possible is the best bet. So that's what Xander's going to do.
He's going to do that, take the knockout here, and then he's got the 2 trades with another Zorua down. So, he's got a lot of options for next turn as well to set himself up for what will be the Sledgehammer turn.
One thing also different about Caleb's list compared to, for example, Alex Szymanski's, who we also saw in top 8, is that he doesn't play Pseudo-Wudo from Guardians Rising, so no roadblock will come out. He'll never be able to limit Xander's bench size. And it looks like we're just going to see that Riotous Beating dealing 120 damage, more than enough to knock out the 90 HP Mag Cargo. Xander did have a Devoured Field in his hand, but wisely decides to hold onto it, wants to wait until there's a turn where Caleb has put a Shrine of Punishments in place, so he has a response right away.
Yeah, Caleb's using Nest Ball here. Maybe he grabs the Slugma. He might also take the Sneasel because he recognizes that Banette might come down, and if he doesn't have an answer to that right away, Xander might start to kind of run away a little bit. I think Sneasel is in his hand actually, so maybe he takes the Slugma, maybe he takes another Trubbish.
Yeah, we'll have to see what it is there. Sneasel is definitely useful to get down pretty quickly. There are already 4 abilities in play for Xander, so after a Shrine of Punishments, he'll be able to knock out a Zoroark GX, and he can already easily knock out a Tapu Lele.
So he is eyeing. He actually opts to not drop the Sneasel. He plays down a Buzz with his counter energy. That is a card that we don't see in a lot of Buzzgarb decks. I think maybe only this list that Caleb and Isaiah have been playing. So pretty interesting there. A lot of utility on that one.
Yeah, it can get you an extra energy requirement, maybe to set up for a swing around on one turn where you had an energy on a Buzzwole already and you're behind. But yeah, prepping the energy on the Buzzwole, I actually really like this from Caleb. This can help to make his Sledgehammer turn a little easier to pull off so that he has access to a Buzzwole this next turn. Xander, we may see him try to do something with the Shady Move ability of Banette. I've seen him do it before, where he can try to play around this Sledgehammer, and since there's no Sneasel on Caleb's bench, it's a lot easier for Xander to try a play like this.
Yeah, at the same time, doing something like, knocking out this active Buzz with a Zoroark might not be terrible, but I think he's just retreating into the Banette. He must have drawn another Rainbow off of his trades because he did discard one the turn before. Can't see all the cards in his hand. There it is. Yep, of course.
Looks like he does have it. He can evolve to Banette, use Shady Move, put that damage counter from either the Banette or one of the ones on Zoroark onto another Pokemon in play. Might be putting it on that benched Buzzwole. We'll see how many supporters Xander has played. As long as it is 4 or more, he'll be able to knock out this Buzzwole in the active.
Yeah, I think it's definitely more than 4. He's deciding where he wants to put that. I think the Buzz is a good play. He has Devoured Field, but if Caleb, for example, plays a Judge or something this turn, he just wants to be sure he can knock that out, and he can always move it later.
Yeah, it looks like that's probably where he's going to put it. Does point to that Buzzwole. We see that counter come down. Mallow, going to be the supporter of choice this turn for Xander. Will put any 2 cards on top of his deck that he wants, and he can trade into those and have access to them this turn. What do you think he's going to get here with the Mallow?
It's a good question. Does he, if he doesn't have an Acerola in his hand, I would, I'd like to see an Acerola maybe come down, maybe a Guzma, so he can take out the Macargo on the next turn with a Zoroark. I like that play. Maybe, he already used the Stretcher. I think it's going to be one of those 2 supporters for sure, maybe both. But other than that, there's a weakness policy he was eyeing, but he decides to switch it for something else.
Ooh, I actually do kind of like the weakness policy take. Looks like he's opted not to take it, though. Would be good to put on that clean Buzzwole so that if Caleb has a Guzma, he can't very easily knock it out with Sledgehammer, because that would be great value out of Caleb's Sledgehammer to just knock out a clean Zoroark.
Yeah, he would need a Guzma and a Field Blower, and Xander takes the knockout with Banette. So Caleb is now in Sledgehammer range, so he needs to figure out, the best way to do this. Something to consider maybe if I'm Caleb, is preserving this buzz with the counter energy, if he can. So that way, later in the game when he's down on prizes again, he can reactivate it and use swing around. But we'll have to see what's in his hand there.
Yeah, he does have an Ultra Ball plus an Acrobike, so he could find Mad Cargo, assuming the second one is in the deck, and then Smooth Over, and then Acrobike into a card. So he could pull off a Guzma play this turn. We'll see if that's the route he decides to take. I think knocking out this Zoroark would be pretty strong. But at the same time, like you said, it would be nice to be able to try to conserve the Buzzwole. So maybe he can find another Buzzwole even.
So he takes out Cargo with the with that Ultra Ball. He does discard the Field Blower.
So he had that option if Xander had gotten the weakness policy.
Yeah, that means that Xander's weakness policies going forward are going to be live on future, presumably clean Zoroarks.
So we'll see, presumably an Acrobike here. He could actually instruct after benching a Sneasel instead of Acrobiking so he doesn't risk discarding something that he doesn't want to get rid of. So it looks like that's what he'll do first. And instructing for 2 first does let him see more cards.
So now Xander Caleb's kind of putting Xander in this position where he has the Sneasel, and he's telling Xander, if you knock out my Sneasel, I've got this Buzz, and I can knock out your damaged Zoroark. If you knock out my Buzz, then I have access to the Sneasel. So we'll see what he does here. Looks like he's pushing up the Zoroark. I would have maybe... I guess it depends what he does. Maybe he's thinking about a Guzma.
Could also Acerola potentially. Looks like we'll see a trade first, though.
We do see he gets a policy off of the first trade. And something if I'm Xander, if I Acerola, that forces Caleb to have Weavile, Choice Band, and a Shrine to knock out the Banette if it has a weakness policy. Mm-hmm. So maybe Xander is thinking. Of denying Caleb that. He's gonna Guzma.
Yeah, doesn't have with only one trade. His options are much more limited than they maybe would be otherwise. Looks like he's gonna target down the Weavile, the Sneasel. Excuse me. Can put a weakness policy down, but I think would be able to be knocked out regardless. So might want to save that for a future turn. I wouldn't hate even putting. No, I don't know. Oh, he can Shady Move, I guess. Where does he put this damage counter?
He's putting it on the Garb. Maybe preparing for a Zoroark later. But I don't know how many items are in his discard is another thing.
Yeah.
So, because Caleb is going to be down to, 1 prize if he has he'll have a Guzma most likely because he's got that Macargo, a Rangaroo. So, maybe those Lele's might be in danger. It's hard to see. Looks like 7 items in the discard.
So not quite a knockout right away, but definitely still doing a lot of damage with Trashalanche. Actually, Choice Band plus Kukui with 7 items in the discard pile, that would be enough to knock out this Banette, wouldn't it?
Yep.
So that could be what Caleb's going to try to do. He does have access to both Smooth Over and Instruct if he can play his hand down. Looks like he has that Weavile in his hand. Can't use that anymore with Sneasel gone.
He's going to Smooth Over here. He does have Lily, so he will be able to draw. It looks like...
we may have a little bit of a freeze on the screen. We'll see if we can get that fixed for you guys. Looks like one of our cameras maybe got reset or disconnected. We'll get it fixed quickly. Hopefully, we don't miss too much of the action.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
This game's definitely coming down to the wire here in Game 1.
Yeah. Xander with 3 prizes. Caleb with 3 prizes. Caleb presumably going to grab a knockout somewhere this turn. So we are, we'll get back to you as soon as we can with that. But, pretty interesting game so far. Xander took out the first Macargo as his first prize, but then Caleb set up the next Macargo pretty much right away, and he reestablished how powerful that can be.
Yeah, he was still able to utilize it these last few turns. He basically only lost 1 turn because the turn after Macargo got knocked out, he just, benched a Slugma. Xander didn't take it out, so it became a Macargo. He started started using it right away. So it's been powerful. Xander was able to deal with the Sneasel. Weavile's not going to be a threat anymore this game, but it might be too little too late. Lots of items in the discard. We'll see if Caleb was able to pull off maybe a really strong play with that Kukui. Hopefully we're getting things fixed pretty soon for you guys. But generally, looking at the game, seeing how that has gone, actually, we're going to get right back into things.
So Caleb took a knockout. On, I believe, the Bennett. He might have done that Kukui choice band play that you were talking about.
Yeah, it looks like he must have done it.
So now Xander has to, he's going to have to heal this Zork, with the Acerola. He has the other Zorua down, but now he's in a situation where benching basics like Zorua is really dangerous, we'll see how he wants to handle this one.
It's going to be an uphill battle for sure. Xander's a smart player, though. He knows his outs. He's going to try his best to win this game still. See a first trade. I guess a second trade since he Acerolled already. He can actually bench Shuppet semi-safely, but with the Beast Energy, Caleb's showing real fast that he has the Guzma, and that's actually going to be the game, and we're going to move on to game number 2 here. Caleb Gedemer taking down Xander Perot in top 8.
Yeah, so
top 4.
So that was, that game we saw how powerful Macargo can be. Xander, intelligently took it out right away, but Caleb, with the 2-2 Macargo, not a chance. I need this to win the game. He did, and it's the Buzzgarb with Macargo and Buzzgarb without Macargo are two almost totally different archetypes. With Macargo, it's this super methodical, tactical, reactionary deck that really has answers to everything, and without it, it's kind of just this like ugly, clunky, good stuff deck. But pretty interesting. If I'm Xander, do I want to change my approach going into the next game? Was there anything you think he kind of missed out on?
That one turn he was mallowing for the weakness policy, but changed his mind, took it back. I think if he could have gotten a weakness policy and maybe prevented Caleb from getting a one-hit knockout on that Sledgehammer turn, that could have been really good for him. Also, adversely trying to just play around Sledgehammer altogether with the Bennett. I'd like to see him try to utilize that. He's talked about how that's been a useful strategy for him before. I think we might have a broken sleeve, so the players are going to just fix that real fast.
Yep.
Extra sleeves on hand.
We got an update here. Looks like Rukon with Gas Can defeated the Metagross Solgaleo. He will be advancing into the finals, and he'll face one of these two.
Yeah, really cool deck we saw from Rukon earlier today, and also in his top 8 match. Just super aggressive Malamar deck, so I'm excited to see what that's going to look like in the finals of this tournament. Rukon, also a relatively newer player. I think he just started playing last season, and already advancing in just, basically 1 year after playing into a regional championship finals is pretty incredible.
Yeah, last year in the first standard regionals, I believe he made top 8 with Vika Bulu. He was the first one, I think, to have success with that deck. And so, like you said, almost a year later in the first standard tournament of this season, he's in the finals this time with a much more interesting deck, I think. Gas Can, pedal to the metal. He has raced to the finals here, so that'll be exciting to see. But in this game, Xander's got to win 2 now. These games are kind of a little slower. Caleb likes to take it slow. We're under 60 minutes left, closing in on 50. So they got time left, but Xander will need to score 2 wins here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think his route to victory is going to involve using Bennett wisely. Bennett is just very good against Caleb's deck, save for the Weavile, so if you can use Bennett to full effect and also take care of the Weavile, make sure it's not too much of a threat, I think that's what Xander's going to need to do.
We're heading back to the game right now. Caleb set up. I'm thinking Xander mulligan once here, so never want to see that, but should be drawing his hand just shortly here.
Yeah, Caleb starting with an extra card. Never going to complain about starting with an extra card. It's always good to have access to more things. You can find more nest balls, get more basics in play, which is just going to be better for you later on in the game.
Yeah, so he'll draw his 7. There's a Shuppet in his opening hand. He's got a Cynthia as well, an Ultra Ball. So he's got he can grab a couple basics here and get a fresh hand with the Cynthia. So Caleb actually starts with the Sneasel. you know, kind of unfortunate. He wants to put the Sneasel down at a specific time, whereas now he'll have to like stretcher for it later.
Yeah, that's something.
Knocked out.
That's something Caleb wants control over, like you were saying, right? He wants to be the one who puts Sneasel down when he's ready to put it down. Starting with it just takes away that option completely. And now it'll probably honestly be pretty easy for Xander to deal with it pretty fast.
On the flip side, now you have the Sneasel down, and when you put the Slugma down, it's kind of, you're forcing Xander to choose between, do I want to stop that Macargo, or do I want to not let you get an early big swing with a Weavile?
So Xander searching through his deck. As we mentioned in the first game, Xander's a very methodical player, takes his time, checks his prizes, especially in high-pressure, high-stakes games like this one in top 4 here in Philadelphia. So looking through his deck, he could find a Tapu Lele. Could go for the Apricorn Maker. We saw him do that in game 1. Depends on what the rest of his hand is. If he has multiple stage 1s, that may be one he wants to eye up. And he's also advantaged here since he is getting to go first.
Yeah, he opts to take the Zero. He does have a Cynthia, so maybe he just wants to draw a fresh set of cards.
Sure.
Give himself the best chance of just getting more basics. A little more proactive. And we will see what he gets off of that.
You know, I think he had another choice band in his hand. He could have potentially attached that to not draw into it off of this Cynthia, but at the same time, Xander does know that Caleb plays Field Blower, so maybe wanting to keep him from putting extra items in the discard pile. But then at the same time, if he's playing Field Blower to just put an item in the discard pile, that makes your weakness policies better later on.
Yeah, we see Xander got 2 Nest Balls and a Lily.
Wow.
So, you know, if he plays both these Nest Balls, he'll be at 4 trainers in the discard. That's 80 damage with Trash Lanch. But he'll have a pretty set up board on the first turn. And he opts to actually just pass.
He'll be content with that here. Caleb could have a pretty good turn here if he could find a Guzma plus a Buzzwole and a Fighting Energy. We've seen that be a really good play from all these Buzzgarb decks, just targeting down Zorulas as quickly as possible in these Zoroark matchups. So we'll see if he can utilize it. Ultra Ball, we'll see which card this finds.
He had to get rid of a Stretcher there. So, you know, he does run 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher, but it's kind of important because, you know, Rescue Stretcher, it would get him back this Sneasel. It could get him back pieces of the Macargo line, Trash Lanches. So, you know, probably not the card he wanted to discard, but he's going for this Buzz. That makes me think he might actually have this Guzma play. And start being aggressive right away.
Yeah, he also had to get rid of a choice band, so he must just have a lot of really other good cards in his hand because, you know, he wants to utilize choice band in order to do more damage to Xander's GX Pokemon. It's really like helpful for him to hit specific numbers, especially after Shrine of Punishments has done some work.
Yeah, definitely. He only runs 3 copies of that card, so he has the Beast Energy. He's got the Guzma.
Here he goes.
So, unfortunately, this Zorua is down for the count, and Xander will need to find a response.
Yeah, he could theoretically get a knockout with Bayonet here. In order to do that, though, he'd need to have a way to put 4 supporters in the discard pile, plus find Bayonet, plus a Rainbow Energy. I think he's counting through what he's going to need to take this knockout. Just needs to play 1 supporter, plus maybe discard 1 with trade. Looks like he's going to play a Nest Ball. I wonder if he regrets not playing one of those Nest Balls last turn now.
In addition to that, Xander will likely want, if he wants to attack with Bayonet here, he'll need to find a weakness policy because if he puts down, you know, he has the Zoroark, and if he plays like a Lily, for example, and then the Bayonet, he can get one shot by this Weavile. So weakness policy is another card he wants to consider. So kind of in a tough spot here. I agree. Maybe he did want to play at least one of those Nest Ball.
Does have another Zoroark in hand, and looks like he has a Tapu Lele as well. Maybe if he had a DCE, he could go for like a Guzma and get a knockout on the Sneasel if he found like a Devoured Field or another Pokemon, but I don't think he has those other cards in his hands.
Has he traded this turn?
He hasn't yet, so I think what he's going to do here is he's just going to Cynthia, try to see as many cards as possible. I think he's accepting, okay, this Banette's going to go down as long as Caleb finds his DNC, and I just need to try to develop my board a little bit. Even though I went first, things are going a little slower for me.
He's going to play the second Nest Ball here. You know, maybe he was thinking before, hold them so he can kind of react to Caleb's opening hand.
Sure.
But, you know, obviously the catch-22 of that is Caleb had the exact response that Xander was hoping not to see. So, we'll see what he gets off this Cynthia. He still could get this Banette and a weakness policy and an energy. And if he does, I'm not sure how many supporters are in there. I think 3.
There's Devoured Field, Acerola, another Nest Ball into DCE. So, yeah, I think Xander's just kind of accepted, I'm not going to get an attack off this turn. I'm going to lose the Shuppet, but I'm going to take the turn to develop my board a little further. Going down 2 prizes early against this Buzzwole deck definitely feels bad, though.
He's deciding what he wants to trade. He trades the Zorua, actually. Maybe he's leaving a spot open for the Buzzwole that he has in his hand because, Caleb will likely either knock out the Zorua or the active Shuppet, and in doing so will activate Xander's Sledgehammer. So, intelligent play by leaving a bench space open, but, Caleb now, if he can, he'd like to target that Zorua and leave Xander with just a single trade.
So we see the Acrobike here on Caleb's side. He's got 2 cards he's got to debate between. I think I saw a Rainbow Energy in his hand, so he'll have an energy attachment somewhere for turn. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe he wants to go ahead and set up the Sneasel. Maybe he wants to try to put that on another Buzzwole, maybe even Trubbish. Looks like Trubbish does come down. See if that energy comes down or not.
Yeah, I think Xander has played at least 5 items. I think he's played 6. So Trash Lanch already is going to start to be hitting a lot. And that's kind of one of the advantages that Trash Lanch got in this new format. Garbotoxin rotated, but the flip side is so did Bridget. So we're seeing a lot of Nest Ball, which is just another item that Trash Lanch can take advantage of.
Another Acrobike here from Caleb. What do you think he's looking for in this instance? Oh, probably that Deancey, right?
That would be my guess. So he can ignore the resistance that Shuppet has to fighting types. Discards a Rainbow and a Trash Lanch with those 2 Acrobikes. Slugma, Buzz with an energy. I don't think he has the Deancey, actually. He does not, and he has to hit this Shuppet for 40. Shuppet, a great tank.
Fighting resistance coming in clutch.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of interesting. I don't think you typically expect a Buzzwole with a Beast Energy to not be able to knock out an unevolved basic, right? But only did 40 damage here.
So now if I'm Xander, what do I want to do? I think he's opting to Acerola. He does have the Devour Field, so he can take a knockout on this Buzz. Refill the bench, but not put down a lot of... abilities, limiting Weavile. And then he also puts down the Baby Buzz. So he's kind of goading Caleb into knocking out one of these non-EX basics on the bench. Gets another trade.
It does put another ability in play to do it, though, so Caleb actually could knock out that Tapu Lele for 2 prizes if he found Weavile plus an energy plus the Choice Band. Weavile's attacks is actually also boosted by Devoured Field, so could do a little more damage that way. Caleb's going to put the Beast Energy in the Super Lost Zone under the playmat.
Yeah, tuck it in. It's, down for a nap for the rest of this game, so good bedside manner there from Caleb. And he actually will just Judge, and that is one of his, that is his only copy of Judge. So I'm thinking maybe that was just his only supporter. Xander wasn't really telegraphing any sort of serious, imminent danger. Without the Octillery and without Macargo currently, he might be
maybe wanting to hold it for later, yeah. But that's what he had to do. With the Shrine of Punishments in play, we'll start to spread a lot of damage, actually. And yeah, he's just going to go ahead and Sledgehammer hits for 60 and 10 damage because of the Shrine of Punishments to each of those GX Pokemon.
Xander actually gets a weakness policy. So he's got some plays here. I see a Mallow that he traded into.
Yeah, Mallow's always great to see as a Zoroark deck because you now have access to any 2 cards from your deck. if you want them. Does need to be careful, though. He's already up to 3 abilities in play, and that Weavile is definitely feeling threatening at this point.
Yeah, he's got a Mallow here. He's taking the Acerola. He's counting on the fact that Caleb's hand is very low. Maybe he's not out of terribly good cards, so he takes the Acerola to protect. Maybe he can save the Zoroark next turn or get rid of an ability or something. What's the other card you think he wants to take? Maybe a Guzma?
Yeah, just trying to set multiple things up for the next turn, I think. Acerola is the main one for sure. Maybe a weakness policy even, if he's going to expect to go into Sledgehammer turns at some point. Wants to protect his Zoroark GXs, so those could be 2 good takes, I think, on Xander's side.
He's got the weakness policy in his hand, but he's actually eyeing the Trubbish, which he just put back into the deck, so never mind on that one. I think he swapped it for a Banette GX. I saw a shiny purple card, so it's either a Lele or a Banette, is my guess. Banette, he could also attack with the Banette here and save his Zoroark GX if he wanted. Save those 2 trades, give up the Banette to the Weavile if it does come down, but if it doesn't, then...
I think there's a dispute over if there's the second trade used. I don't think it was.
So he actually, we see him draw a Guzma and an Acerola. So both of those options for him. He has another double already.
It looks like he is going to put a weakness policy on this Zoroark. Wants to try to protect it if he can from getting Guzma'd and knocked out from a new Buzzwole, since he is now on that Sledgehammer turn. And this is the big turn. I think this is one of the most pivotal turns in any of Buzzgarb's Shrines matchups. How can I utilize my Sledgehammer turn? Do I get full effect out of it?
Yeah. Sledgehammer will one-shot this active Zoroark, of course, but it's already kind of weak. So Xander, of course, trying to minimize the value that Caleb gets out of a Sledgehammer if it's on the active. If it's on the bench, he needs a Guzma, Buzz, Energy, Field Blower. He needs a lot of cards, actually, to even use the Buzzwole's Sledgehammer this turn because he doesn't have it, and he only had 4 cards in hand. So he has to Cynthia. So I don't think he's not going to be able to use the Sledgehammer this turn, I don't think.
Yeah.
He does run a copy of Switch, so he could still do it, but, like I said, kind of a weaker Sledgehammer because it's already a damaged Zoroark.
It looks like he did draw the counter energy, so he can use that to Trash Launch. I'm not sure how many items Xander has played at this point in the game. Probably not as many, and especially against the Psychic-resistant Zoroark GX, might not do too much damage. He does already have 70 damage on this active Zoroark, so it's a little easier to knock out than a clean 210 HP stage 1.
He'll need 8 items in the discard to one-shot this. Xander has, he's played a couple Nest Ball, and I think he's traded an item or 2 here and there. But I don't know if he's at 8 yet. We see Caleb actually shuffle back 3 Pokemon. It's kind of funny. The other effect of Stretcher is to shuffle back 3 Pokemon, but it seems like every time somebody plays it, they just take 1 right from the discard. So Caleb's just lost so many important Pokemon that he just... he wants them all back.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that Weavile was in the discard pile. That must have gotten discarded early. So shuffling that back in is definitely important. Sneasel's not a threat until Weavile is available to you in your deck.
Yeah.
So we're going to see him smooth over here. What's the card he wants in this situation? I don't think he can even draw it this turn.
My guess is...
Oh, no, he doesn't have Instruct in play.
No, but he does have a knockout with Trash Launch, I think. We'll see 3, 4, 5. Only 5. So actually way less than I thought from Xander, and that is not a knockout on the Zoroark.
Yeah,
so
only dealing 110 damage after the Choice Band. Actually, 90 damage after the Resistance as well. So not a very strong Trash Launch for what we're used to seeing.
I had thought Xander played a couple more trainers than that, so guess he fooled us all. He's going to trade away this Guzma. I think he's going to play the Acerola this turn, obviously. Negate everything that Caleb did on his last turn. Put himself down to just 2 abilities to get rid of a Weavile play. He's kind of starting to run away with his game a little bit as far as board states and control of the match goes.
Sure. So we see another Zorua come down, just the same one he picked up, replacing the deep double colorless energy so he can have an energy attachment maybe somewhere else next turn. And yeah, Caleb was not able to use Sledgehammer. That is just massive. Going into this turn, he's also only got 2 abilities, so Weavile can't do too much. Still doing a solid amount of damage as a one-prizer, especially with Devoured Field in play. It actually increases his damage. But I think you'd rather have Shrine of Punishments. Does effectively the same thing, and if it doesn't get bumped, there's more damage coming back in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's such a... Xander found a way to play around Sledgehammer this game by just, having Caleb not have a strong opening hand.
Lily for 6 after a smooth over, so has at least one card he wanted to pick out of his deck. And Caleb had such a strong start this game, but it seems like Xander has clawed his way back and has put himself in what appears to be a favorable position. He at least has the prize lead.
Yeah, definitely. That turn where the beast energied baby Buzzwole couldn't knock out a lowly Shuppet was kind of a pretty big swing turn in this match. And now Caleb's kind of been struggling to, get that control of the game back.
So Evil Admonition will do 130 damage after the Choice Band, plus 10 damage from the Shrine of Punishments. Should put this active Zoroark up to 150 total damage, I believe, and 10 damage on the Lele from the Shrine of Punishments. So we'll see if Xander maybe can find his second Acerola to heal this damaged Zoroark. Actually, no, he used his first Acerola early on in this game on the Shuppet, so no healing option left.
Yeah. However, he is getting pretty close to being able to use Banette. If he can actually use Banette to knock out this Weavile, Caleb is kind of in a situation where he can't really deal with a Banette as efficiently as he'd like. So Xander's maybe recognizing, like, okay, you finally got one of these Zoroark, but he sets himself up for Banette. I'm not sure what play. Maybe he probably wants to knock out this Weavile, actually. So I don't know. Maybe if he's got Lusamine in his hand, he could Lusamine back some Acerola. Like an Acerola, Devour Field. I don't really know. He's got a lot of options this turn.
So he's already discarded the energy to retreat, but hasn't moved the Zoroark to the bench. So we need to make sure that he retreats the Pokemon. I think he's deciding what he wants to go into. Does he want to take the knockout with the Zoroark, or does he want to take it with Banette? I think that's what he's figuring out here.
He just wants to count and make sure. There are 9 supporters in the discard, so that will be enough for Banette to knock out the Weavile. He does have access to Shady Move. Xander reattaches that double. If the Zoroark gets knocked out, it gets knocked out, but he wants to make sure he has every available attacker on the next turn.
Does have access to one more trade. Looks like he's going to get rid of a Lily. Does find his last double colorless, I believe, and some other card.
It's a Judge, I think, is what he got off of there. So now he's trying to count what he wants to do. He doesn't Shady Move.
Not sure where he... I don't know. He definitely could have put the damage on, like, the Buzzwole in case Devoured Field got knocked out.
Right.
Maybe just that might have slipped his mind at this point. We are going on, 17 rounds of Pokemon these guys have played at this point.
Yeah.
And Lily for 6. Here we go.
He didn't use Smooth Over before he Lilied, so I think maybe he's thinking at this point he's got a lot of options to get the Oranguru, so he can Smooth Over after. I think I see an Ultra Ball on the top, so he should be able to do this. How many items are in his discard? Xander not using Shady Move keeps the Banette at 180 HP, which is an even amount of damage. And now with the Shrine, it puts it at an odd number, but that means Choice Band has a very good shot of knocking this out if he has that.
Yeah, Caleb has options now between finding those different cards. He still hasn't used Smooth Over, so it's going to depend on what he drew off of that Lily as to what he gets. I think he does only have one Choice Band left in the deck because he discarded one early. One was just went down on that Weavile. So he should have access to at least one more. Needs Garbodor plus the Choice Band here, depending on how many items Xander's played. Ooh, there's another item hitting the discard. That could be big, depending on the counts.
And he did draw that off of the Lily. So he still has his Smooth Over, and my guess is he's going to take a Garbodor. I didn't see it in his hand yet. How many items are we looking at here? Is that 7 or 8?
Yeah, I think in order to get the knockout here, what would he need? He'd need 7 or 8 item cards, right? With a choice band would get him there. 7 with a choice band, actually, after the shrine would get him there.
Yeah.
So instruct for 2. Let's see what these 2 cards are. There's the Garb. I don't think he has the choice band. I think he's just going to have to hit for a decent amount of damage and hope that the damage sticks.
That's 8, but that leaves the Banette with 10 HP left.
Ooh.
That's devastating for Xander. Or for Caleb.
Yeah, and we'll continue on. Actually, 140 damage on that Banette, it looks like. Or sorry, no, there's more. But yeah, we'll just see the first trade come out. Yeah, and so now this Shrine of Punishment is something that's definitely becoming a big issue for Xander. He needs to get rid of that so that this damage stops ticking up.
And it's kind of funny. It seems like Xander has found the secret for dealing with this Buzzgarb deck. It's just using the Banette and Shuppet to tank hits from either of Caleb's Pokemon and put themselves just outside of knockout range.
Yeah, and he set himself up with a great, scenario here. He goes down to just 1 prize left. He's got 2 Zoroarks in play, both with double colorless energies. Caleb has 5 prizes left. It's going to be tough, I think, at this point for Caleb to win. And yeah, Caleb recognizes that. Going to go ahead and concede here after Xander getting that knockout. So we're moving on to a game 3 here in top 4.
Yeah, definitely. They tied in day 1 of Swiss. It was 1-1. They just didn't have enough time to finish, but we have 31 minutes left. This should be enough time to finish one last good game to decide who moves on to the finals here. That game seemed like Caleb, he kind of judged himself out of the game. He judged himself before he had the Magcargo and the Oranguru set up, and we kind of saw he was just struggling to kind of do anything after that point.
Yeah, he did get Magcargo up eventually, but I think at that point he was too far behind, right? Magcargo is so important early on. We saw him targeted down early in game 1. He got it in play as quickly as possible. I think Caleb's going to want to take advantage of that going first to try to get Magcargo up and running.
Yeah, definitely. Also starting the Weavile, or the Sneasel, I'm sorry, was kind of, not what he really wanted to do. Xander intelligently played around that, never really gave him the opportunity to get a huge hit with that. His Zork tanked that hit, and that Zork actually was never knocked out in this game, I don't believe. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think, if I'm Xander, I think Xander played that second game. He kind of set up, and that's really what he wanted to do. So I think he played that well. I don't know. Yeah, like you said, I think Caleb just needs to get Magcargo ASAP. Also, knock out a Shuppet if you've got a Beast Energy on your Buzzwole. Oh, yeah. Probably make sure you do that.
Yeah, and definitely excited to see how this one goes. 2 of the game's greats at the moment in North America. Xander has a lot of basics in his opening hand. Looks like Caleb has either Magcargo or Slugma, so we'll have some sort of good setup going. And yeah, this is exciting, guys. Let's get some hype in the chat if you guys are ready for this top 4 match. Game 3, winner of this goes on to the finals. And let's not forget what these guys are playing for. Title of regional champion, but also 200 championship points, and the winner of this tournament goes home with $5,000.
Yeah, definitely. For a game 3 start here, this is about as good as Xander wants it. Caleb's mulligan twice. Xander has an Ultra Ball in his hand alongside 3 basic Pokemon to start. He's got a Lele. Xander is ready for this game 3. Caleb, of course, hoping that he doesn't get the mulligan into Dead Hand Curse that befalls so many players. I think we see a basic this time. Didn't see what that was. I think a Trubbish.
Yeah, I think so.
But here we go.
On to game 3. This is it, guys. Game 3 of top 4. Winner will move on. Caleb, it looks like, has a Nest Ball in his hand, and what he goes for here can give us a little information about what the rest of his hand might look like.
He's got a Shrine as well. Not going to play that right now, but he's going to be ready to do that. He's got a Buzz here.
Yeah, and I think, you definitely want Buzzwole early on. Sure, he wants to get Slugma and Magcargo into play quickly, but Buzzwole, you need to attack, right? You need to attach your energy cards for turn, all those things. So we could definitely see him look to attach an energy and maybe find a Guzma on his second turn to take a knockout on a Zorua.
He's just kind of checking his deck. You know, Caleb doesn't really take notes, I don't think, but Caleb has a very good memory, so he'll likely be memorizing the cards he has prized, and just kind of game planning for what his deck has to offer him right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of 1/1s, 2/2 evolution lines, things like that. So with so many evolutions, you got to memorize and know what you have access to throughout the game, so you don't accidentally later on, like Ultra Ball for a piece you need, and oops, it's not in here, it's in my prize cards. Caleb making sure that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Caleb also playing an Ultra Ball, discarding a Garb.
I think a Judge as well.
Not sure what that was. Maybe he just dropped a card or something.
Okay.
So now what he takes here, probably a Slugma if I had to guess. Maybe the Oranguru. Maybe he wants some additional draw on the first turn. But he actually, oh no, he puts it back.
Was thinking about another Buzzwole. Looks like it will be the Oranguru.
Does take the Oranguru.
I think he does only have like one card in his hand, so he could utilize it here. Maybe he's trying to find a Lily here on the first turn of the game.
Yeah. If he doesn't get it, though, and he discarded the Judge, and that was his only supporter, kind of a greedy play.
It might have been a Kukui as well. They look kind of similar. Going to get the energy attachment here on the Buzzwole. And we'll see an Instruct at least for one. Looks like, no, he's going to go ahead and Guzma, so he can find 2 cards here on this Instruct. But with only 3 cards to work with, things are looking a little bleak. He does get the Yancey Prism Star, which is going to boost his damage early.
Yeah, Xander, of course, ton of cards here to work with. Even if this Sarua goes down, he'll have a lot of stuff to work with on his turn. He's using Tapu Lele right away. Not playing the Ultra Ball yet. Maybe he doesn't want to burn items unnecessarily, or he just figures he's going to play a supporter this turn from the Lele anyway.
Yeah, it looks like he brought a Cynthia to the front of his deck, maybe wanting to just, you know, if he has a couple more basics or Nest Balls or something in his hand, he can use Cynthia to shuffle and draw 6 new cards to refresh his hand. I think he definitely wants another Zorua on the bench because this first Zorua that's in the active is almost certainly going down next turn.
Yeah, definitely. So he's, you know, just like Caleb, checking his deck. He was actually marking some stuff down on his notes for what he has prized. You know, if I'm Xander, do I want to take this Cynthia? He's got an Ultra Ball, so he can burn down a little bit for the Lele. You know, I feel like he's going to play that Ultra Ball anyway to get at least another Zorua down. So
yeah, he could definitely try to utilize Lily, also potentially finding Apricorn Maker this turn. It really does just kind of depend on the rest of the contents of his hand. And that's one of the things I think a lot of people like about these Zoroark decks is you have multiple options on turn 1. People are either playing Fan Club or Apricorn Maker, so you have that option turn 1. You've also, of course, got Lily as a great option. Looks like Xander is going to grab Cynthia, so there's a chance his Lily could be in his prize cards.
Yeah, Xander, he does run 2 copies of Lily, so I think he actually opts to not play the Ultra Ball at all. That's interesting. I wonder, this Zorua is going to get knocked out, and he'll be down to just 1 Zorua. And there was at least 1 supporter in his hand he could have discarded with the Ultra Ball to help out with, say a Banette on the second turn. So kind of interesting that he opted to not do that at all.
Yeah, I mean, Xander does have more information than us, like, there's a chance that both of his other Zoruas could be in his prize cards, There's a chance, like, he's also, being conscious of Trash Lance Garbodor, so he might be wanting to play around that. And looks like he did draw Zorua, so he has access to them, but maybe just wanted to try to draw it with the Cynthia as opposed to having to play an item to find it.
Yeah, definitely. He has that, he's got that Baby Buzz of his own in his hand, and he's got a Rainbow Energy as well. So with an Ultra Ball, so he'll be able to attack with a Banette if he wants on the next turn. Not going to do a ton of damage, but, we'll see. I think he just passes. Yeah, nothing else he can do. Not going to attach an energy this turn. I'll just wait and see. Caleb instructs.
Wouldn't have liked to put that Shrine of Punishment in play yet until there's GXs in play, but needed to draw more cards with Instruct. Has to discard a Magcargo as well. That's a pretty costly discard. I bet that other card was pretty strong. It looks like he does have another Magcargo in his hand, though.
I don't see the other card, but Caleb is kind of in that awkward position where, he's only seeing like 1 to 2 cards a turn, and he needs to find a supporter, a Cynthia or a Lily, so he can kind of reestablish any sort of control he wants from previous games.
You may be looking to see if this Sledgehammer prize can bail him out a little bit. Xander goes ahead and promotes the Shuppet. He does have a Rainbow Energy in his hand, so if he can find Banette with this Ultra Ball, could potentially take a knockout if he has 4 or more supporters in his discard pile already.
Yeah, if he's got only 3 supporters, he can still take a knockout if he shady moves to that Buzz as well. So the barrier for pulling this off is pretty low, but he'll need to grab a supporter with another Lily, or with a Lele, sorry, which puts both another ability and GX in play.
So he does have the Lily in deck, so maybe he just didn't have a lot of cards he could play down last turn to get full use of Lily, or, as we kind of mentioned, maybe he's trying to not play a lot of item cards if he can avoid it. So I'm sure Xander's playing very intelligently here.
Yeah, so he attaches, plays a Nest Ball, probably going to grab, I would guess, another Shuppet if he's got one.
Yep.
Just to make sure he's got like an Acerola target for the next turn to keep the Shuppet going, because Caleb, poor draws and no Sneasel anywhere right now, so Banette kind of has free reign at this point in the game.
We're going to see the Lily. Should draw Xander 4 or 5 cards here, I think. There's a Zoroark. No Banette yet. Still has access to trade, though.
So he'll need to get an Ultra Ball or the Banette off of this, or another Zoroark even. He trades a Choice Band. There's a...
I think that was the Trubbish.
That is not...
Oh, no, that's the Tapu Lele, the fairy type.
Yeah, that is not what he wanted to see here. He replaces the Shrine. If I'm Xander, maybe I retreat this Shuppet into a Lele, and then follow up with a Guzman next turn or something, or...
I mean, you could even just, like, attack with the Shuppet, honestly. I think its first attack, just for colorless, does 10. So he could do 20 damage to the Psychic Weak Buzzwole, and it's not super easy for this Shuppet to get knocked out. Caleb would need a Kukui in order to pull that off because of that fighting resistance. So it looks like that's what he's going for. I think its attack is like Tackle or Bleh or something like that. That sounds like a typical Shuppet attack name, but 20 damage goes on to the Buzzwole regardless.
Bleh actually discards a special energy. That Shuppet is one of a kind. This is just a bop Shuppet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So second Magcargo goes to the discard pile for Caleb.
I'm starting to think maybe I did see a red thing, so there is Slugma in the deck still, but he just hasn't really had an opportunity to draw it, and he's only, he's got a Oranguru for 2, I think, maybe 3 if this is a card he can burn. It is.
There we go. So he can rescue Stretcher back those 2 Magcargos he's discarded.
Put back Magcargo, Garb, not bad, and he'll be able to draw 3 with the Oranguru, but if he doesn't get a Kukui or the Beast Energy, this Shuppet will once again survive a hit from the Buzzwole.
Looks like 2 cards.
And I don't think...
There's a Lily.
No, there's a Lily, so he could still find the Beast Energy. If it's in the deck, I guess I wasn't paying too much attention, but I didn't see it.
Going to go ahead and target the Slugma, and I like this. You want to get Slugma in play. You want to be able to set up Magcargo to keep those draws smooth throughout the game. And, even though he's not knocking this Shuppet out, with only 1 trade in play, Xander wasn't able to find the Banette last turn. There's also a chance he's unable to find it again this turn.
Yeah. He might just have to hit this poor Shuppet.
Does 30 damage.
30 damage. Xander, Ultra Ball is the next card. That is unfortunate, but we've seen that a couple times this tournament as well, with some very near misses. He's got a Psychic Energy as well. He could attach that to the next Banette if he wanted. He's eyeing the Acerola.
Yeah, maybe debating picking up the Shuppet. If he has a DC in his hand, he actually would be able to knock out the Buzzwole.
He does. He does have the DC, so I think he might do this. Save the Shuppet. Not have to burn trainers.
Yeah, it saves the energy as well, I think, is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Could have just retreated it off and held the Acerola for later on, but he's really valuing those rainbow energies for use later on.
Yeah, and he puts a weakness policy as well.
That's big.
So now Caleb, if he wants to, do a lot of chip damage with this Baby Buzzwole, he'll need to find his one of Field Blower, and then if he does that, Xander, has access to that second weakness policy, which would stick.
So we'll see what Caleb wants to send up. Looks like it's going to be that Baby Buzzwole. Won't get full value out of Sledgehammer, of course, because Xander is at 5 prizes as opposed to 4.
Yep.
And we'll see what else he wants to do. It does have a Nest Ball in his hand. If he has Ultra Ball, he can maybe find Mag Cargo. Looks like there is one right there. Mag Cargo plus Smooth Over into Instruct is a great combo that we've seen utilized this whole weekend.
Yeah, and now, Xander, like we mentioned in the first game, Xander doesn't want to knock out the Macargo if that's going into the Sledgehammer turn, because then it gives Caleb access to Sledgehammer. So he wants to take out something else, and then I think he can start targeting down this Macargo.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what he grabs. I'm not really sure. What do you think Caleb wants to find with Smooth Over?
Maybe another Buzzwole in case this active one does get knocked out. Looks like he might be eyeing up a Rescue Stretcher to recover the Buzzwole. He could, get energies maybe if if Xander's item count is pretty high. Trash Lunch could become a threat pretty soon.
Looks like he did take the Stretcher, I'm pretty sure.
I wonder what he's looking for with this, though.
He'll draw 1. Probably just puts the Buzz back into play.
That works as well. Maybe he prized his other Buzzwoles. I think you might want to save your Stretcher for later on in the game.
That's actually his second Stretcher as well, because he used the first one to shuffle in that double Macargo and Garb. So he's going to follow it up with a Lele for 6. Used to be called Bianca once, but that was a few generations ago.
See Shroud of Punishments come in play. This can start to spread some damage, soften some things up on the bench. And even these Shrine of Punishment ticks, they make it so that, even if Caleb's not going to Guzma knock out a Zolwark or something, like take care of draw from Xander, he could even Guzma knock out a Lele potentially, which as long as I think you're taking 2 prizes with Sledgehammer, you don't really mind as much what it's on.
Right, definitely. He prefers Zork,
sure,
but he needs to stay, he needs to try and get up in the prize race. This is, one of the most basic matchups in Pokemon of 2 prize attacker versus 1 prize attacker. So, Xander trades a Rainbow Energy.
Has another Zolwark in hand, hasn't put it down yet, might be wanting to try to be mindful of the number of abilities he has. Looks like we'll see a Timer Ball. Big flip here. Tails on the one on camera. Can't tell if it was heads or tails.
Looks like it
may have been tails.
Maybe it exited the play area, so maybe they want to re-roll or something. Or maybe it just was tails. I don't know. I don't know what this discussion is.
Yeah, they're having a discussion, trying to figure it out. Looks like it was double tails.
Oh, okay.
We'll see if we can get some confirmation on what the issue was there.
Now, if I'm Xander, playing an Ultra Ball, it's unfortunate when Timer Ball hits tails, double tails, because then it's just a wasted item.
Yeah. It's plus 20 damage to Zolwark. 25% of the time it finds you 2 Pokemon, 50% of the time it finds you 1, 25% it finds you nothing, and 100% of the time it makes Garbodor do 20 more damage.
Yeah. So we will see what he's going for.
Caleb checking the discard pile real fast.
Caleb, because he has this Macargo set up now, he would have access to a Field Blower if he needed to get rid of this weakness policy. But if Xander takes this knockout, then Caleb will need to find another energy because the counter energy, it will actually activate, I'm sorry. But he has to just Acerola, deny him that Zolwark for a prize.
You see the Bennett come up. Almost certainly enough supporters in the discard pile at this point for Shadow Chant to take the KO. And, Bennett, very, very powerful. card. I think this was a card a lot of people were excited to see when it came out in Celestial Storm. You know, there was the old Banette, I believe, from EX Power Keepers, I think, maybe EX Legend Maker, one of those EX era sets that was a really good card, saw a lot of play in past formats. So I think some of the old-timey Pokemon players were excited to see this card come back.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Banette, the old Banette EX, was the center point of the Rambolt deck that won a World Championship before. So, showing its stuff here. I don't believe Xander used Shady Move again. He had damage, you know, on like the Lele's that he could have moved to say like the Buzz. So I'm wondering, maybe he just, I think he's realizing he forgot to do that.
You can kind of hear him a little bit.
Yeah, you can hear him upset about that fact. They're probably having a good laugh. Xander frustrated with himself. Sometimes, you know, these high-pressure situations just kind of get to you and you forget.
Especially after how much Pokemon we've played over the past 2 days.
Yeah, Xander, in his top 8 match, played a very, very long nail-biter of a game. So he was still a little, you know, maybe a little, had some nerves from that. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, lots on the line for these players. I mean, top 4 is still amazing. They guaranteed themselves a lot of championship points, a lot of packs, and also $1,500. But, you know, everyone wants to be a regional champion, right? They want that title, and, of course, $5,000 doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, and we see this Garb come down. So now if there are 7 items in the discard for Xander, that would be enough to one-shot with the Garb choice and then the Shrine Tick, I believe.
Should be right.
Which is, you know,
it's very possible there's 7 at this point, for sure.
Man, you know Xander's just kicking himself over missing that shady move. It's funny how many times we've seen, even just on stream today, or this weekend, how important that 10 damage can be.
Oh, yeah.
Caleb looking for an opportunity to take advantage of that, you know, minor slip-up by Xander. Gets a Trubbish down, played Lily, used Smooth Over. I didn't see what he took, but
he's going to take 2 prizes here with Trash Lynch, so there must be enough items in the discard pile for that to happen. Man, this is looking a little tough for Xander at this point.
Yeah, he attaches double colors. He'll be able to knock out this Garb. What he wants to find right now is a Shrine. I'm sorry, Devoured Field.
Yeah, he actually needs to find a Devoured Field, either a Devoured Field or a basic Pokemon. He's right now 10 damage short from knocking out this Buzzwole, this Garbodor, so needs off of these 6 cards plus whatever his trade is to find one of those 2 things.
I see a Cynthia that he's going to trade.
There's the Devoured Field.
The last card off the trade. Caleb doesn't need to know that, but that is exactly what Xander needed to stay in this game.
Looks like he had a Nest Ball, so he could have gotten a basic Pokemon if he needed to, but at the cost of putting another item. Devoured Field was definitely the preferred choice there for Xander.
Right, and so now this Zoroark has the weakness policy, so, you know, Caleb won't be able to do, like, you know, a lot of chip damage with his baby Buzz. I'm not sure, has Xander played 2 Acerola? I know he's played
I'm
1.
not sure this game. Yeah, at least 1 for sure. Should have access to that second one, I believe, still.
He's thinking about what to take here.
Looks like Buzzwole's going to come to the active. Counter Energy not live currently. These players are tied at 3 prizes apiece. Does still provide a colorless energy, but Sledgehammer does require a fighting, so we'll need to attach either a rainbow or a basic fighting in order to attack this Zoroark.
Yeah, we are under 10 minutes as well, so this has been a very long, you know, grindy, mentally taxing series for these players. Both of these decks, you know, pretty technical, have a lot of moving pieces every turn, so a testament to their endurance to make it to this point and get close to closing out a game.
Yeah. So it looks like Caleb is in the process of using Smooth Over. You know, pulling any card from your deck is so powerful, but it can be tough to make that call sometimes. Looks like he's eyeing up Sneasel, but actually going to go with Shrine of Punishments. What do you think about that decision between those 2 different cards?
You know, it's interesting. I think I'm not sure how many Devour Field Xander has gone through. I think this is his second.
I think the other card he saw off Acrobike is the Beast Energy.
That is a tough choice.
Jeez.
Actually, because you want the Beast Energy to be able to do a lot more damage with this Buzz because of the weakness policy, and he does just discard the
Shrine of Punishment.
And he's going to knock out this Shuppet, bring himself down to 2 prizes. If I'm Xander, do I want to try and get a Guzma and knock out this Trubbish? Because otherwise Caleb has no way of knocking out, either the Lele or the Zoroarks.
Yeah, I think it really depends on that item count. Maybe if Caleb has already used some Guzmas, you're fine with trying to just knock out the active with Zoroark if there's not enough items in there. Yeah, it just really kind of depends on what's all in play between the 2 players' discard piles. What resources have they expended, and what do they have access to still? Xander's checking just that right now.
I think he was thinking about pushing up that Zero, so I think he might be eyeing the Guzma play. Just wants to check and make sure. Caleb does run the full 4 Guzma, so he's still got a couple of options there. Xander trades for the first time. I think he does have an Ultra Ball, and he just got a Guzma off of that trade. So
with Devour Field, he could take out my Cargo, but no, going to take out that Trubbish, as you were mentioning.
If he does this, then in order to knock out the Zoroark, Caleb would... Well, actually, Caleb just cannot knock out the Zoroark, and if Xander doesn't evolve to the other Zoroark, then the best Caleb can do this turn is take a prize. He can't knock out these Lele with the Treshlanch gone, so Xander playing this smart. He's got to take 2 prizes after this Trubbish, but setting himself up to do that. I
think he needs to also be mindful of that counter energy. Swing around could come into play here if Xander does take 2 more knockouts before Caleb takes one. And I think Caleb is going to be mindful of that, not take a 1 prize knockout this turn because he wants to have that counter energy option available to him.
Right.
Coming down to the wire, guys, this is extremely close. 2 prizes apiece. Lots on the line here. Both of these players playing for so much. Man, this is a tough call. Caleb doesn't know quite what to send up yet.
And it's kind of funny, if Xander, on the next turn, if Xander, say, Guzma's the counter energy Buzzhole, then Caleb can go for a big play with like a Choice Band and the Diancie and hit this other Zoroark on the bench. If Xander puts that in play. Alternatively, if he knocks out this one, then, the counter energy play is live. So Caleb was probably not hoping that Trubbish wouldn't be knocked out this turn. I think he was planning to use that to close out the game.
Yeah.
And because he only has 1 bench spot at a time, Xander kind of has free reign to target that down.
Caleb does have access to Judge. Xander has a pretty wealthy amount of cards in his hand, so disrupting here could be pretty strong from Caleb. Guys, this is feeling intense. This is going to come down to the wire here in this last game.
Yeah. I don't know how many Choice Band Caleb has gone through this game. But if he can find a Choice Band, he'll be doing 110 damage, even without weakness. So that sets it up for a 2-hit knockout in the future. Even if he doesn't get the Choice Band, I think it sets up for the 2-hit knockout. So it's kind of, I'm not sure what Xander...
It looks like we're going to see that Sneasel come out into play finally, maybe setting up for Weavile. I think he just wants to use Smooth Over and Instruct here. I don't believe he has done either of those yet this turn, so he should be able to have access to whatever card he wants from his deck.
Yeah, definitely. Putting that Sneasel down. He's going to Smooth Over. I wonder what he takes here with this. Maybe an Energy. He's eyeing that. He's eyeing the Guzma as well.
Weavile.
For that possible 2-hit play. He's got a lot of options. I think the Weavile is what he took.
Did we ever determine if we thought Xander had used his second Acerola? Because that could be huge right now.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure on that one. If he does have the other Acerola, he can pick up one of these Pokemon with an ability and lower that Weavile's damage cap. But Caleb, I think... Does Caleb have another Shrine still, or did he discard his last one with that Acrobike?
He may have had to discard it with the Acrobike. I think he took a Guzma here off of this Smooth Over, so he'll Instruct for 2 cards. I think he's just counting, making sure everything is good in play.
He actually...
just going to pass. Maybe he did Instruct, I didn't realize it.
Yeah. Sets it up. So now if I'm Xander... This one's a little tough.
So it's actually interesting. Actually, I just realized, I think the reason, even if Caleb hadn't used Instruct, by not using it here, he actually guarantees that he'll be able to use Smooth Over for Instruct again next turn.
Correct.
So theoretically, if he, you know, has 3 cards in his hands, you know, he top decks another one for the next turn, plays the Guzma. If he didn't get a playable card in that hand, there's a chance he can't use Smooth Over and Instruct. So this guarantees he knows for a fact next turn he'll be able to Smooth Over and Instruct. So that's actually a super high level and really smart play, I think, from Caleb.
On the flip side here, if I'm Xander, do I think about maybe trying to find a Guzma and knock out that Macargo? Because we saw him put the Guzma on top, which means he's down to just whatever Instruct gives him for his draw to find a combo. You know, he's setting up for a you know, a 2-part Smooth Over combo. But if Xander can disrupt that now and go down to 1 prize, then the onus is kind of on Caleb.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is since Caleb put that Guzma on top, Xander can't Guzma and heal this Zoroark in the same turn. It's got, I believe, 100 damage on it, so there is definitely the chance, if Xander did that, that Caleb could find either Choice Band, Kukui, something like that, to knock out this Zoroark and just win the game outright, take his last 2 prizes. It's going to be tough, I think, for Xander to identify what his out is here, but he's a great player. Let's see how he plays this last couple turns out.
Xander only runs 2 copies of Tapu Lele GX, so he can't Ultra Ball for it, but he can Ultra Ball for another Zoroark. I don't know if another Guzma is in the deck at all here. I do see one. He's looking at it. It's right in the middle there, I think. But he's got a handful of cards, so he needs a bit of a miracle here.
Yeah, I think Guzma on the Magcargo is going to have to be his out, as you mentioned. Taking that out, yeah, sure, the Guzma would potentially, you know, take the last knockout that Caleb needs, but he needs another piece, right? He would need either Choice Band or Shrine of Punishments to do that. Oh, man.
On the other side, Xander has not used a GX attack, and he has a rainbow in his hand.
Ooh.
So what he could do is he could retreat into a Tapu Lele and use Tapu Cure. Well, no, if he does that, then he leaves the Macargo in play, and Caleb can get, you know, maybe a Weavile.
Yeah, I think that, like, while that might be a great play if there was multiple prizes left, with Caleb just having 2 prizes left, I don't think there's time for a play like that, unfortunately.
And Xander... he discarded the rainbow. What he could have done is use Stomp Off and discarded the card that Caleb put on top of the deck, but I don't think he has the rainbow to do it.
He doesn't have it anymore. That would have been really clever,
I think Xander sees how that play was an option for him. Oh, this is brutal.
What does he do here? He's already committed the DC to retreat. He has another DC in hand, so he can attack with a clean Zoroark and take a knockout. But if Caleb has the Guzma plus a damage modifier, he'll be able to win the game. Oh, man, all Caleb needs here. Counter Energy is live. All he's going to need... Oh, no. Well, without Beast Energy, he's not doing near as much damage. Man.
Well, Deancey with Swing Around will do 100 base, so he would just need a heads.
Is it going to come down to the heads here? Oh, Weavile.
He's opting for the Weavile. He
has Guzma, and he has Rainbow Energy. That is it. Caleb Gedemer takes his last 2 prizes. Evil Admonition on the Weavile, takes out the Tapu Lele, and Caleb will move on to the finals, playing against his teammate, Rukin Xiao. How about that? What an intense set of 3 games.
Yeah, Xander.
That his time expired as well.
Xander obviously disappointed with that one. You know, that was a really good game 3.
Yeah, wow.
Down to the wire. You know, I think in that last turn for Xander, there were a couple different plays he had, but he kept thinking through them as he moved past the cards